What if I told you that some families operate just like a cult? Today, we are going to watch a cult psychology video, and I'll be breaking down how these same psychological tactics actually show up in pathogenic parenting and why so many people don't realize it until it's too late. Hi, I'm Maddie, and welcome to my channel. Welcome to the Anti-Alienation Project. Here's where I discuss a form of child psychological harm because I experienced this for 20 years. I'm not a therapist or a researcher. I'm simply someone who survived a highly controlled, regimented household similar to a cult. And now I seek to educate the general public about lesser known forms of psychological abuse, often but not limited to including a parent who's manipulating their child to reject their other parent, which is just one of the types of harm that I experienced. So if you're new to my channel, and there have been quite a few new people, so welcome. This concept of a family being similar to a cult might be a new concept for you. I've made a couple videos on this in the past, breaking down Dr. Stephen Hassan and he's America's leading cult expert, the BITE model, and also looking at different studies examining cult-like parenting. But I want to make it clear that we're not talking about all parents, of course. We're talking about psychologically abusive parenting and how that in particular mirrors cult-like dynamics, where children are, for instance, discouraged from having independent thought, are emotionally manipulated, and where love, approval, acceptance, everything is conditional, and it's determined based on your obedience and your loyalty. So the first video we're about to look at explains how cults recruit, indoctrinate, and control people. How these cults teach people to accept a doctrine from a leader without questioning it at all. Also, please ignore my voice. I'm getting over a sickness. So as we watch the breakdown of this video, I'm going to be pausing throughout and pointing out some things where I notice that some control tactics that also show up in parent-child relationships, also why they can be so damaging even long after you have left the home. Without further ado, let's get into it. Oh yeah, on the YouTube algorithm really will push my content, help people figure out about all of these issues. Simply like the video, leave a comment, and share the video. Really helps YouTube know that this matters. Here we go.
When Reverend Jim Jones founded the People's Temple,
by the way, this is coming from TED Talks,
in 1955, few could have imagined its horrifying end. This progressive religious movement rose in popularity and gained support from some of San Francisco's most prominent politicians. But in 1977, amidst revelations of brainwashing and abuse, Jones moved with several hundred followers to establish the commune of Jonestown in Guyana. Billed as a utopian paradise, the colony was more like a prison camp. And when a congressional delegation arrived to investigate its conditions, Jones executed his final plan. On November 18, 1978, 909 men, women, and children died after being forced to drink poisoned Flavor Aid. That grisly image has since been immortalized as shorthand slang for single-minded, cult-like thinking. They drank the Kool-Aid. Today, there are thousands of cults around the world. It's important to note two things about them. First, not all cults are religious. Some are political, therapy-based, focused on self-improvement, or other.
And some are literally in your family. So that's the uncomfortable truth about all this, that the mechanisms, the manipulation, everything that cults do, it doesn't just happen in fringe groups or in religious groups. These same psychological tactics, the isolation, the following authority without question, secrecy, fear, emotional manipulation, everything like that can happen in homes too. And when it's your parent who is the cult leader, this is even more difficult to escape.
otherwise. And on the flip side, not all new religions are what we're referring to as cults. So what exactly defines our modern understanding of cults? And why do people join them? Broadly speaking, a cult is a group or movement with a shared commitment to a usually extreme ideology that's typically embodied in a charismatic leader. And while few turn out as deadly as Jonestown or Heaven's Gate, which ended in a mass suicide of 39 people in 1997, most cults share some basic characteristics. A typical cult requires a high level of commitment from its members and maintains a strict hierarchy, separating unsuspecting supporters and recruits from the inner workings. It claims to provide answers to life's biggest questions through its doctrine, along with the required recipe for change.
Just a comment on the hierarchy point. So in dysfunctional family systems, you have a clear hierarchy. Just a reminder, I'm speaking from personal experience here and from all the research I've done and people I've interviewed. You have the parent at the top who is like the cult leader, and then obviously each child below has a different role that is placed on them. And you may have the favorited child role, the scapegoated child role, the forgotten child role, whatever it may be. But there's a clear pecking order, a clear hierarchy
that shapes a new member into a true believer. And most importantly, it uses both formal and informal systems of influence and control to keep members obedient, with little tolerance for internal disagreement or external scrutiny. You might wonder whether some of these descriptions might also apply to established religions. In fact, the word cultus originally described people who cultivated the worship of certain gods by performing rituals and maintaining temples. But in time, it came to mean excessive devotion. Many religions began as cults, but integrated into the fabric of the larger society as they grew. A modern cult, by contrast, separates its members from others. Rather than providing guidelines for members to live better lives, a cult seeks to directly control them, from personal and family relationships.
Yeah, so the parent is not accepting of their child and all their flaws and all their thoughts and values that might differ from their own. Oh no, you have to fall in line. The parent essentially wants their child to be miniature versions of themselves. They want to have full control, and any dissent is obviously not allowed. You must be loyal without question to your parent. And controlling parents often expect obedience without any challenges from their children. And a point on emotional manipulation, also conditional love. Just like cult leaders reward and punish their members in order to effectively shape their behavior, so too do pathogenic parents use affection and withdrawal of love to carefully control their children. They might also bring in other people to also give them affection as praise and positive reinforcement, and then withdrawal of love and care as negative reinforcement. And siblings too help in putting pressure on somebody who's falling out of line, for instance. You are also in this type of family system. It's very much an us versus them mentality, and family above everything else. Blood is thicker than water. I know that I heard that a lot growing up, and our family is the best. It's a very narcissistic thought process that they instill into the child. Like, our family is better and superior than everyone else, and there's a certain code of law, so to speak, that you have to follow in such a family, whether it's having a perfect appearance, whether it's having perfect grades, whether it's having high financial achievement, whatever it may be. And likewise, harmful parents in this scenario often discourage friendships, for instance, with other outside influences that they disapprove of, or they might discourage romantic relationships with people that they do not explicitly approve of. And they will often try to even hinder your emotional development, your independence, your social development. Some parents, like my own, will even go so far as to isolate you from your other parent so that they can effectively control you without having to answer to anyone.
To financial assets and living arrangements. Cults also demand obedience to human leaders who tend to be highly persuasive people with authoritarian and narcissistic streaks motivated by money, sex, power, or all three. While a cult leader uses personal charisma to attract initial followers, further expansion works like a pyramid scheme, with earlier members recruiting new ones. Cults are skilled at knowing whom to target, often focusing on those new to an area or who have recently undergone some personal or professional loss. Loneliness and a desire for meaning make one susceptible to friendly people offering community.
This is where there's a little bit of a difference, but still they're preying on a vulnerable population. They're exploiting people's emotional state, their vulnerability, and who is more vulnerable than a child? Who is more vulnerable than a child, than the parent's child? I mean, you're not going to question your parent when they're telling you what to do as a child because you believe that they love you.
The recruitment process can be subtle, sometimes taking months to establish a relationship. In fact, more than 2/3 of cult members are recruited by a friend, family member, or coworker whose invitations are harder to refuse. Once in the cult, members are subjected to multiple forms of indoctrination.
And when this is your family, you get this indoctrination from day one. Before you even understand the language, they're giving you this indoctrination. So how can you expect a child in this scenario to be able to discern their own thoughts, beliefs, and values from the thoughts, beliefs, and values that have been carefully indoctrinated into them? It's a mess.
Some play on our natural inclination to mimic social behaviors or follow orders. Other methods may be more intense, using techniques of coercive persuasion involving guilt, shame, and fear.
Hi, that's me. I know that. Hi, it's me. It's me. Yeah, so I fought my pathogenic parent every step of the way, you guys. Every step of the way, I fought them tooth and nail. I was the kid in my family, if you can't tell, who did not fall in line and who questioned things and who refused to just bow my head down and be like a little sheep walking in the herd. I was the one, climbing up the tree down the wayside. I questioned everything. I fought back. I don't mean like physically. I mean, I just would not accept the manipulation. And because of that, I did receive the guilt, shame, fear, the techniques of coercive persuasion, as they put it. And because of that, I was put in the scapegoated role. Proud scapegoat over here, I believe, and I have made a video about this before, that the scapegoated child has the best chance of escaping the toxic family system and ending the generational cycles of trauma and abuse. It's simply true. Because if you cannot identify the dysfunction in your family of origin, you are so much more likely to unconsciously repeat it. Also, being the scapegoated child, you're treated the worst in your family. So you're more likely to want to get away. You're also more likely to see the manipulation and experience the harm, experience, the ill treatment, whereas your other siblings might be getting a way different version of that parent. That's a little caveat, but yeah, that's me, guys. I'm there.
And in many cases, members may willingly submit out of desire to belong and to attain the promised rewards. The cult environment discourages critical thinking, making it hard to voice doubts when everyone around you is modeling absolute faith. The resulting internal conflict, known as cognitive dissonance, keeps you trapped, as each compromise makes it more painful to admit you've been deceived. And though most cults don't lead members to their death, they can still be harmful. By denying basic freedoms of thought, speech, and association, cults stunt their members' psychological and emotional growth, a particular problem for children who are deprived of normal developmental activities and milestones. Nevertheless, many cult members eventually find a way out, whether through their own realizations, the help of family and friends, or when the cult falls apart due to external pressure or scandals.
Okay, it's a little different for when it's your family. Some of it's the same with secrecy and shame, but when it comes to your family, toxic family systems are definitely going to want to keep the abuse hidden and use shame, fear, guilt, anything they can really to silence their victims. Um, thinking about my own family and the cult-like parenting gives me a lot of empathy for my siblings who are still in it because they don't even know what the heck is going on. Even though I've tried to show them, no matter how much I try to point things out to them, it will never get through to them because of their blind loyalty and their blind obedience. And I'm not even angry at them for that, obviously. That's all they've known. That's what they've grown up with. If you grow up with a parent who manipulates you all the time, you will equate manipulation with love. That's just how it works. I mean, it's simple as that.
Many cults may be hard to identify, and for some, their beliefs, no matter how strange, are protected under religious freedom. But when their practices involve harassment, threats, illegal activities, or abuse, the law can intervene. Believing in something should not come at the cost of your family and friends. And if someone tells you to sacrifice your relationships or morality for the greater good, they're most likely exploiting you for their own.
Okay. So that was the first video I wanted to touch on. And again, that came from TED Education talk. Now, the other video that I have is a video called Cult Like Narcissistic Systems by Surviving Narcissism. That is the channel name. And I also wanted to play this video because it's relating it directly to narcissism, which I think is probably, what we're talking about here. So let me pull that video up. Is this relating to you guys? Do you know, have you have any experience that is sounding familiar to this? When you think of it as a cult, it's kind of like shocking at first, at least it was for me. But then once I thought about it more, I just realized that, this is what I went through. This is what my family is. And, if I don't accept it, then I'm going to do my own children harm. I need to work through this. So let me know in the live chat, in the comments, what you guys think, if you've been through any type of family like this, or if you've noticed any other families out in your life that have been similar to this. So let's check this one out.
If you have ongoing exposure to controlling people, it's a virtual certainty that you're going to experience blurry boundaries, which is why I've created the extensive online course called This Is Me, Establishing Boundaries. It's not at all unusual to find that some of these narcissistic individuals can rise to the top of organizations and create a cult-like kind of atmosphere where they are. Very authoritarian, very focused on what that leader says must be. Now, when we tend to think of cults, we obviously think of religious systems. And certainly, I know many of you have been inside religious systems where there is a very, very tight belief system and a way of life and habits and preferences and priorities that you're supposed to live into, you'd better live into. But cult-like thinking goes beyond just religiosity. I've had plenty of people that I've spoken with that actually have gone into a family system that can be very cult-like. I remember one woman marrying into a family, and she found out very quickly that The father of the groom was the strong arm inside the family. Everything that man said and did and wanted had to be adhered to. And he was one of these guys that smoked stinky cigars, and he would come into your house and sit in the living room and smoke a cigar. And if you didn't like it, too bad, he'd do that. I mean, he was the large and in charge kind of a person, and nobody was able to question him.
On the flip side, I'm just saying, on the flip side, you could have a matriarch. You could have a mom who is ruling the entire household covertly. Growing up, even into my young adulthood, if my mom was not happy, the entire family could not have a good time. We were not allowed to be happy unless my mom was happy. Everybody was emotionally regulating themselves to my mom's emotions. Does that make sense? Like, everybody was walking on eggshells trying to figure out if she was okay all the time. And if she was not okay, none of us could be okay. That was what we were trained to do. She was the center of not just our family, but all of our individual worlds. I know for myself, and maybe I shouldn't speak for my brothers, but I know for myself that I was constantly thinking about her, making sure that she was okay, that she was not going to fly off the handle or be super upset at me or emotional, so that I could manage her, so that I could manage my own emotions, because I would become extremely upset if she was upset with me. And I don't think it's healthy to have the whole family system be revolving around one person.
And if you did, it's like, oh, you didn't say that, did you? You couldn't do it. Or in addition, you can have work environments where there's a cult-like mindset that's there. I recall years ago inside my profession, you'd think it wouldn't be.
I'm going to speed this dude up a little bit.
There, but I went and visited a friend of mine, a fellow that I actually knew back in my undergraduate days, who had joined a clinic, and the doctor who was in charge of this clinic was extremely overbearing and micromanaging about how all of his people had to sit in their office behind the desk and had to wear certain clothing, and they had to address things in a certain way and have a certain emphasis. And in fact, when I was there, my friend had heard me as I was speaking to the leader of this group, refer to this man by his first name. We'll just say Jim. And later on, he said, "You didn't call him Jim, did you?" I said, "Yeah, you were there. You heard me." He said, "Nobody ever refers to him as that. It's Dr. So-and-so." And I thought, well, he called me by my first name. Why can't I do that? But this man had created this mindset that says he's at the top of the stack. You'd better give complete fealty to that person. Or sometimes you have social groups or civic organizations where one person is so overbearing that nobody dares to come against that leader. Now, there are multiple indicators that says that you are facing a cult-like kind of a system with certain narcissists and their groupies. So let me run through some of these. First and foremost, when we talk about a cult-like atmosphere, we're talking about having an unquestioned loyalty toward the leader. That's the individual who establishes the ideology. They establish truth according to what they say. Of course, they usually come up with some other kind of authority. They may say, well, it's not me, it's God that says this, or it's the...
Yeah. Not to mention, what do you have when you have a parent who has a delusion, who's a delusional thinker, who does not live in this realm of existence? For instance, my mom believes that she can speak directly to Jesus, that he can appear in front of her. I mean, that's not reality, that's delusion. Or, for instance, my mom, once my parents divorced, had all these delusions about my dad suddenly, like that he didn't love me, that he had abandoned me, that he didn't care, that he was a bad guy. And it turns out she was actually mapping her own childhood experience of her mom and what her mom made her believe about her dad. When she had the divorce with my dad, all of her anxieties and fear of abandonment, I believe, were triggered. And then she mapped her own childhood experience onto me as a child and to my dad. And as a child, how are you supposed to know any different when your parent doesn't even believe they're actually lying to you? They believe their own lies. You don't know any different. So you believe what they're telling you. We believe what they believe. And that's how you were forced into a shared delusional disorder, which can cause havoc on your life. If I seem angry today, by the way, you guys, I'm sorry. I get worn down sometimes with just the evil in the world.
Book that says this, or it's standard operating procedures, but make no mistake, it's the narcissist who's the ultimate purveyor of truth. The cult leaders established all the practices that people are supposed to go into, and so they generate a type of groupthink, and you have to be loyal. That leads to another thing, and that is dissent or questioning of the leader is strongly discouraged. That woman who married into the family where the father was it, or me visiting that clinic where you can't call the guy Jim, or a religious system where you can't say, that doesn't make sense to me. You don't do that. You can't do that. That's against the rules.
Yeah, there's almost like a level of worshiping that cult leader parent. I'll just call it cult leader like parent. There's almost a level of like you need to worship them. Their word goes, never upset them. God forbid you upset them. They set the rules, like you said, for family events, for how you worship, going to church on Sunday, to what you wear, to your values, your morals, whether you, for instance, whether you have sex before marriage. I mean, like they will micromanage every single step of your life, and they do not see you as an independent person. Some of you guys watching probably know this. They don't see their children as independent people. They see their children as parts of themselves to control out in the world.
That's the way cults operate. Inside these narcissistic cult systems, micromanaging happens inside the group. Who are you with? Where did you go? What did you purchase?
Yeah, guys, this is like it can be like psychotic level, like next level psychotic level. I mean, I was 23 when I went on my first date with my husband. Okay. Like what, 8 years ago. And my mom sent my 4 younger brothers to follow me on our first date. I was 23. She would follow me places, invasion of privacy to the nth degree. We're talking like, even if you lock the door, they'll unlock it. When you're an adult, even come in your room, come in your bathroom, no privacy whatsoever. Go through your drawers, read your journals, go through your computer, read your texts. Zero privacy. And that goes back to the point that I just made before. They don't see you as an individual person who's worthy of respect, who has the ability or who's worth having any privacy, because they see you as part of themselves. So in their brains, somehow it computes to my child is mine. You are my child, so I can have every control over every part of your life, and I'm owed that. That's the mindset. I am owed that.
What kind of entertainment are you drawn toward? And there are all sorts of rules and regulations for all these small micromanaging things. What did you wear? How did you conduct yourself? What time did you get home? What are your sexual practices? And many, many different kinds of things where you're told in no uncertain terms, here's how it has to be down to the smallest of details. In addition, inside these cult systems, there is an elitist attitude as you compare the cult to the rest of the outside world.
I already mentioned this. This is so funny. It's funny because it's like intuitive for me, and I mentioned it before he even said it. Yeah, it's we are better than other people. This is like hard to even admit that I was raised this way because it's really messed up. Like, I don't know why you would make your children believe this, but that you are smarter than other people, that everyone in your family is smarter than other people, that you are better looking, for instance, than other people, that you are higher achieving than other people, that you will do great things, amazing things in the world, better things than other people will do. And that's really highly abusive to make a child believe that they and them and their family are above other people, to instill that type of elitist, condescending attitude in your child is no healthy parent would do that. And again, if you aren't mistreated to a degree where you must step away from the family, or if you don't realize what's happening in your family system and you fully embody these values and this attitude, that's not a good outlook for you and your marriage down the line. And your progeny, your kids, your grandkids. That's not a good outlook, because more likely than not, you will pass that down, because you don't know any different. To you, that is your family. You truly believe that those things, and once you step away from the cult too, it's like you're afraid for everybody who's left in there. You're so afraid for them. And even when you try to talk to them and try to get through to them and try all different types of tactics, similar to like how a loving parent who's being rejected unnecessarily by their child might try a myriad of different tactics to get through to their child. When you step away from your dysfunctional system, like I have, and you try to support your siblings, get through to your siblings, remain in contact with your siblings, I imagine it's a similar experience, like hitting a brick wall here and then hitting a cement wall over here, and just you can't get through them. And it almost feels like the more you try, the harder they resist.
Cults operate with a very strong us versus them mentality. Our way here inside this cult is the only way. And so whenever they see other individuals who are acting differently, there's kind of this mindset that says, I'm so thankful that I'm not like these poor slobs over here. I'm so thankful that I have my way because these other individuals just don't know what to do. And that being the case as well, then they have a lot of scorn and disdain toward anyone who's outside the group's circle. There's a very strong haughty attitude, and they're very intolerant of anyone that comes along and thinks and acts and prioritizes differently.
Okay. This is hitting home so hard, because my siblings, and of course my cult-like parent, they all have this view now of outsiders. They have that view where they're looking down on outsiders. They're almost like, oh, poor you. Like they pity outsiders, almost scornful, condescending. They just think they're better than outsiders. They have that view towards me now. And that is a very painful experience to go through. There's really nothing else to say about that except that it freaking sucks.
Inside these cult-like systems,
and if you've been through that too, I just want you to know, like, you're not alone. And it's hard too, because sometimes there's like power in numbers, which is why it took me so long to actually walk away.
A very strong control via the use of shame and guilt. I mentioned there's all these rules and regulations, and then if you come against it, it's like you're not just bad, you're terrible. You're going to hell, or you're not one of us, or you've insulted us. And so there's a lot of condescension toward anyone inside the group who would dare be different. That being the case, there tends to be the practice of shunning of those who don't buy into the rules and regulations. It's part of that attitude of exclusivity. People inside that cult-like group are not allowed to explore alternate ideas. In fact, if anything, people who have alternate ideas are the enemy, and they need to have an outside enemy. Those infidels over there, or those people who don't get it, or those people who are trying to ruin the world, or those people who vote the wrong way, whatever it might be, you're not allowed to have different ideas. In addition, if there's any kind of failure or miscalculation on the part of the leader, then that's to be kept secret, or we make excuses. You play the enabler role towards the leader. Or if there's a failure or a miscalculation of the individuals inside the system, then we can't talk about it, or we'll rationalize the failures with distorted reasoning, or you have to keep all that secret.
Yeah. So all that being said, you could probably imagine my family's reaction to me speaking about all of this publicly. My siblings have told me they're ashamed of me, that they are so ashamed of me. They view me doing this as akin to having a sibling do OnlyFans. They are that humiliated and ashamed of me. And my response to that was like, why are you ashamed and embarrassed of me talking about what happened, talking about what was done by our parent, instead of being ashamed and embarrassed of what our parent did, of our parent. Why are you not ashamed of our parent? Why are you not embarrassed about what our parent has done to not just me, but our entire family? I talk about a slice on the internet about what happened, mostly with my mom destroying my relationship with my dad for 20 years. I don't talk about all the other things. I mean, there's a lot I could talk about. All this is to say that the shame they try to induce, the shame that they try to make you feel, I don't know if they're trying to bring you back into the system or punish you for exposing secrets, but it is almost like they have enlisted an army to go to war for them against anyone who may have anything negative to say, even if it is the truth.
It's a very sick system. And again, I go back and say it's highly authoritarian. You have that primary narcissist who's at the top of the heap, and then they create other individuals who just shake their head and say, yes, that's the way it is. I'm hoping that if you've been exposed to something like this, you can realize this is no way to live. And any kind of organization that has to have this tight control is built upon deep pathology, deep insecurity, paranoia, and typically leading a system like that is going to be your best option. It's vitally important for you to connect with people who allow you to be you. And so as you examine your association with these kind of individuals and you begin looking outward, I'm hoping that you can give yourself permission to say, even if I have different beliefs or preferences or lifestyle choices that may feel odd simply because that's what the cult says I'm not supposed to be, live into your uniqueness anyway. I give you a very simple illustration. I spoke once with a woman who came to my office wearing pants. And she felt very strange and weird. And I learned that she had lived in a system, a religious system, but also the family and social structure around where women can't do that. They have to wear their hair a certain way. And it just seemed so odd for her to say, well, I'm going to reach out. I'm going to do something really daring. I'm going to wear pants. But that's the way it works. And so as you examine how there's a different way of thinking and doing and being, I'm hoping you can give yourself permission to say, I'm going to step into that uniqueness. And if you've been exposed to this cult-like kind of a mindset, there's one word that I'm hoping you can focus on and embrace it for all it's worth. And that's the word freedom. Cult people and cult leaders and authoritarian individuals don't want you to remember you have a free will, and let's embrace it. Let's live into it. And freedom means you have the privilege to choose. Inside cults, it's like, no, the choices have already been made for you. And I'm thinking, no, that's not the way it's meant to be drawn up. And then if they do attempt to lure you back in, I'm hoping you can appreciate another word, and that's the word boundaries. Boundaries means you get to decide what convictions you get to live under. You get to decide what kind of parameters and what kind of preferences you're going to have. You get to decide who you're going to be. You define you as opposed to them defining you. So let's recognize that no human system or no authoritarian individual has the right to micromanage your life. Variety.
Not even your parent. No one. Not your partner, your romantic partner. Not your parent. No one.
Individual tastes, unique ideas, social preferences, all of that is built into the fabric of human nature. We're meant to be unique and distinct. So I'm hoping that as you move away from that cult-like thinking, you can recognize it's important to live into the things that make you distinctly you.
Okay. So, I like that guy. I think he's just very, sovereignty. Yeah. I saw that the comment in the live chat, sovereignty. Yeah. Yeah. So if that has struck a chord with anybody tonight, first of all, I'm sorry you can relate, but then also let me know in the live chat, like, what was your aha moment? What was the moment when you realized that your family or your partner, whatever it may have been, was dysfunctional? What was that moment for you like? So the bottom line, I think, for me, and what these cult psychology videos really highlight is how powerful that social influences can be, especially if it's your family of origin. That could be a charismatic leader of a group, a pastor of a religious group, could be a parent who's demanding blind allegiance. Across the board, however, the techniques are eerily similar. Emotional manipulation, discouraging independent thought, making you question your own reality. That's a big one. So if you've ever felt trapped in a group, an organization, or perhaps even a family dynamic where speaking up felt like betrayal and you felt like you could not be your true self, and where love was conditional, independence was punished, please know and believe you're not crazy. The first step to freedom is recognizing the pattern. And once you start unpacking the dynamics and learning more about it, you can start to rebuild your authentic identity, reconnect with who you truly are, set boundaries with those people who can't accept all of you unconditionally, and decide to choose relationships that do respect your autonomy and your authenticity, not to control you. So as we close, I just encourage everybody to ask yourself, who gets to define my worth? This is a question I ask myself often. Who gets to define my worth? Who gets to define what I believe about myself, what I think about myself? Who gets to define my voice? Who gets to define my future, my life decisions? And I don't want it to be the person who controlled most of my upbringing to this point. If it feels like somebody else is defining your worth, your life, your decisions, your voice, just know and maybe ask yourself whether that's love, because I believe that is not love. That's control. So who gets to define your worth? I would argue no one gets to define your worth except you. And perhaps if you believe in God, if you believe in some type of higher power, the higher power you believe in, don't hand that power to anyone else, though. They don't deserve it. I hope this video has been insightful or helpful for someone out there. Hope you can understand me with my voice. Please like the video, help me get in the algorithm. As always, thanks for being here, and I will talk to you guys next time.